This is the Politically Non-Binary Podcast, and I'm your host, Arielle Isaac Norman. Every week, I have on a comedian or some other concerned citizen to confess a controversial opinion or two. Enjoy. That some people aren't even okay with you having a question about, or
Well, and I've experienced that because I'm in Northwest Georgia, which is Marjorie Taylor Greene is my representative.
Oh, she's representing you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that for me.
Yeah. So, what is your experience of her? I mean, I barely even pay attention. I mean, I'm aware that she's kind of off the reservation or whatever.
Yes, she is. Yeah. And I actually was interviewed by the Fox Syndicate in Chattanooga because the city that I'm in is wrinkled. It's like 10 minutes away from Chattanooga, and that's Northwest Georgia, where Marjorie Taylor Greene is our representative. So anytime something happens with her, Fox's Chattanooga Syndicate sends somebody out to Ringgold to try and like get people's opinion.
On the street stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
And the last one was when she made her big hoop-de-doo at the State of the Union, where she was dressed, I mean, just like a clown.
Was she?
I mean, she had like this big white feathery thing. I don't know. She just looked ridiculous, which I'm a fan of fashion.
Yeah,
totally for it. But she's already lauded for being just a clown.
Yeah,
you know. So why?
Well, because I think that's part of the issue is that what gets you success in America right now,
standing out
in any field, basically, or in any kind of entertainment-based field, which politics now is, it has been for a while, but increasingly so. And so it is just standing out and being a lot, and like. And so, I mean, you see it in comedy. There are people who get famous on Instagram or TikTok, and it's not really necessarily because they're the best, but they're just good at being a lot all the time.
Yes.
And getting all the attention.
And she is good at being a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's into that. So they did ask me like how I felt about her representing me. I'm like, I don't want her to be my representative.
Yeah.
And
I hope she doesn't represent anybody.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't think that, I don't understand how she was voted into. I mean, I guess I do, though, with the people that I live around. I'm like, I can kind of see it.
Well, who did she beat? Who was her competition?
Oh, that I couldn't even tell you.
Because sometimes that's the issue. Is people are going, you know what? She's fucking crazy, but we'd rather that than this person who's just going to be an establishment.
You would think that. You would think that, right? So this year, 2023, it was earlier this year, we had an election in my area and Herschel Walker was running against.
He was the guy who had the affairs or something? Or?
He's the football player with you can tell that he's had multiple concussions.
Okay,
you know, he has these speeches that he's doing where he goes off on these tangents talking about like werewolves and vampires.
Oh.
Like if you watch
that's probably popular.
And it's funny to watch. It is funny to watch, but it's also scary.
Right.
Because he is running for a political position. And so I was dating somebody at the time that was very much like, I can't believe you don't vote. And I'm like, it's a waste of your time. And she was very much like, you need to vote. And I'm like, okay, fine. So I just moved to Ringgold and I went ahead and registered when I got my driver's license done. And I'm like, I'm going to go vote in this election and say no to Herschel Walker because this is insane. And I had to vote twice because the first time it was too close.
Oh, yeah. They did a bonus.
Yeah. And I was like,
overtime.
I have to say no twice.
Yeah.
Like, are y'all not watching these speeches?
Yeah.
But they are watching them, but they're making fun of them.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are some people who are quite happy for government to not be functional. And so it's like good.
It's another reality TV show we get to watch.
The real politicians of wherever you're at.
And the real politicians of the Georgia, Tennessee area are they've got some interesting things going on, but I think it's all a distraction. It's all a distraction.
Okay, so let's do this then, since you're already creeping up on your opinion. Can you introduce yourself to the audience?
My name is Bridget Martin. I'm kind of a comedian, I guess you could say, located in the Northwest region of Georgia, Chattanooga Metro. That's what we call it. And that's who I am.
And then what's your controversial opinion?
I think voting is a waste of time.
Okay. So give me your elevator pitch for why I should not vote.
Well, in the voting, so the first time I ever voted was year 2000.
Okay, yeah.
And I lived in Florida. And I was very excited to vote because it was my first time voting. I just turned 18 and I waited in line for a long time at university to go vote. And then months afterwards, I had gotten a letter in the mail that because of all of the issues that they have with the machines in Florida, that my vote literally did not get counted.
Yeah.
I wish I kept that paper.
Were you one of the hanging Chad people?
I was.
So so this was your own fault then?
Well, I guess. I guess. I was just excited to vote.
Do you remember the Chad?
You know, honestly, I don't remember how it went down at all. It was such a long time ago.
Because we were told it was all old, stupid people. They just don't know what's going on. What I didn't really. It was also 18-year-olds. That makes a lot of sense.
18-year-olds.
It's always the old and the young who are the problem.
But I wish I had kept that letter because it confirmed that my vote did not count.
Well, in that particular case.
And honestly, maybe it shouldn't have because I was 18 and I did not know. I did not do any kind of research. I was just like, I'm going to vote against Bush, you know?
Yeah. Don't you think maybe we should tighten the voting ages to like 25 to 65 and then just that's it?
I don't know about tightening the voting ages, but I think maybe more education. If we're going to have a voting age at 18, the education needs to start earlier.
Right. But who's doing the education?
Right. Well, that's part of the problem.
Really kind of needs to be parents and stuff.
Well, God.
But that's also a problem.
Right.
That's the issue. It's like you try to be like, oh, who could solve things? Well, if the teachers would, that's not viable. What about the parents? Oh, they're retards too. Not. So there's really everyone is inept in this country. So it's like, I don't know, how are we gonna?
And I don't even know if it's just being inept. It's also just if you try to like research these things online, especially now, like the amount of information that's out there and trying to discern what is correct and what is not.
Right.
It becomes really difficult. And I think for people who are that young, I mean, maybe they're a little bit better at discerning things online than I am because they were born online.
No, I don't know. They're also all addicted to porn and not having sex. And I mean, I'm not sure that the internet is something they're really good at.
Well, yeah, I guess they just contribute to it. But it's just really hard, I think, to find information that's correct.
Right.
To really understand what it is that you're voting for. And even like understanding the things that are on the bills and that they're talking about, they like make these things just so they're not for regular people.
Yeah. Well, yeah. How about that though? Ballot initiatives. Do you believe in not voting on those too?
I did not vote for 23 years. I didn't because I was like, this is just a waste of time. I think, and really the reason, it's not just because I got this letter in the mail saying that my vote didn't count, but it's what I have come to believe is that no matter what we want, what the voters want, what we put on our ballots doesn't matter because in the end, money talks and all of these people are puppets.
Right.
And whatever money wants to have happen is going to happen. So
basically you just think it doesn't matter. Even if we try our best, there's nobody good to vote for because they're all bought and paid for by the
I'm sure not 100% of them are.
So that's the thing. It's like, should we not try to find the ones who we think really are like, not so morally compromised. Yeah. Because I will say, I agree about the waste of time in general and your vote generally, it's never going to come down to one vote. How do you, but early voting takes very little time.
Yeah, and that's what I did in this last election. I did the early voting.
Yeah, it doesn't take long. And then you get your Yo Vote Taste sticker, and that's nice.
And even when I didn't
sometimes
early
you get a free donut. Or something.
They did not have snacks at mine. I was disappointed.
No, you got to look up your cities. If you have your vote sticker, then you get a free something at different.
Oh,
different
I have
businesses.
seen that. You're right. I thought you meant at the voting center.
No,
I guess that would be
the old people there might have like old people candy or something, but that's about it.
Yeah, there were a lot of old people. I think that's the other thing is it's just so many like politics is old people right now. There's so many old people involved, and just watching them slowly lose their minds.
Right. But that's more reason why we should vote them out.
Right. And I think we need to start, there just needs to be a drastic change in the way our government is run.
Yeah. Because the thing that I tell people and that I think is a good argument for voting is that it really doesn't matter that much whether your vote counts or sways something. Obviously, it's not any individual vote isn't going to almost at all. There's almost no possibility of that. But they can't see who you vote for. Can't see, but they can see whether various demographics vote or not.
Yes.
And so when they see, okay, well, yeah, looks like we just still need to get all the old people to vote for us because they're the only ones voting. then they're going to continue. They're all old too. So they're going to continue doing things by old people for the old people, you know? And so if they see like, oh, okay, good. The younger people continue to not vote or be engaged. It doesn't matter to get reelected. We don't even have to cater to them in any way.
We don't have, yeah.
So I think that's my thing of like, well, I don't want them to just go, oh, look, they're not even voting. Yeah. So I guess we don't even have to try. Like we can just, you know, make this even more flagrant.
I feel like that they're not even trying now though.
Right.
Because even when they're going to try and attract our votes, like I guess the student loan thing is a huge thing. They set it up to offer all these promises that they cannot deliver on.
Right.
You know, like, yes, okay, wiping away student loans sounded great and everything, but now he can't deliver on it. So you like get the wishes and hopes up of all these people because they're like, okay, I am going to go out and vote because I do want that and that will benefit me. And then they get screwed again.
Well, yeah, but you made the mistake of trusting someone like Biden.
Right.
You know, that's not,
yes.
We have to actually get truly maverick people in there. And I mean, that's something where, you know, Trump, for all of the bad things about him, you know, people really did have hope because they wanted to reset the system. They wanted to change things.
Yes.
They wanted to have a populist movement where the country was actually run for the people. And it's interesting because like a lot of the kind of impetus behind him was like tear the system down kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I hear the same thing from the left, my left friends of like, this whole country is corrupt and fucked up and we need to like tear it down. Like everybody does want to drain the swamp, you know? And so it's like, I'm not sure, you know, in some ways Trump is an asshole and misogynistic and that's all sucky. In other ways, like I think some of the things he did that I've heard are kind of good, and that some of the things that he wanted to do, he was hamstrung because the establishment absolutely didn't want someone anti-establishment coming in there and doing like. And I'm not sure. It's all very confusing to me. I am not an expert on Trump at all.
I don't think anybody is.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, but I'm much more excited about RFK Jr. now, but who's also being demonized by the establishment. And the further I look into it, the more it seems like he's the best man for a true upheaval of.
That would be interesting to see.
Yeah. So then I'm like, and so then to me, like, okay, the general election is mostly a farce as an election. I mean, but then primaries maybe are worth voting in because only like 20-ish% of the population is even voting in primaries. So your vote does go farther. And so like, and especially if you're in a state, I don't know how Georgia or Tennessee are. If you're in a state where you can vote in both primaries, that's really cool. You get to help shape both parties. But that's what I find more interesting. Like once we get to the general election, I almost always hate our choices.
Yeah, because it's like, I don't want either of these.
Right. But watching people in the primaries, listening to people in their podcasts, reading their books, like, you know, I've liked some of these people and mostly on the Democrat side over the recent years, but some of the Republican side too. And, you know, it's like, so I would rather focus on that. Like, let's try to get the right people nominated instead of letting this.
But I think part of is, yes, we can get the right people nominated. Yes, we can get the right people in office, but there's still that puppet system that it's not something that we see. Like, so these people could get all the way up there and they have all these great ideas and they want to make all these changes, but there's still going to be that ceiling.
There's an entire bureaucracy.
Yes. Because
state, if you want to call it that.
You've got like these huge companies like Amazon, I'm sure has something to do with how the government operates because they stand to benefit off of whatever is happening in this country. So
yeah, we essentially have a kind of kleptocratic system.
Yeah, it's bought and paid for. And so no matter what we want, I believe we're just going to get what they want.
Yeah.
And they may give us some things here and there, you know, to keep us.
They give us some crumbs, keep us distracted by juicy controversies.
And the distractions to me are even like I don't know if you saw in Tennessee when the 3 representatives were like silenced and kicked out, or they were like trying to like get them out because they were standing up with students who didn't want, who wanted better gun control in schools.
Yeah.
And it was just wild to me that they were like choosing out these representatives to say, but that was a distraction for whatever else they had going on in the House or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Because there was something about they were breaking decorum.
Yes.
And then, Yeah.
But then you have the people like Marjorie Taylor Greene who have not been silenced, and tell me she's not breaking decorum.
She's got to be breaking some rule or
yeah,
another.
she's out there like yelling, just causing distraction during things like State of the Union, and it's very annoying to me. Politics are annoying to me because it does seem like a reality TV show at times, and I feel like we're just kind of being entertained,
right?
So that they can keep doing other things,
whatever. Yeah,
without us looking.
I mean, pretty rapidly sending America into a state of decline. Which I mean, we're chugging our way down. And we're not sure how fast it's going to be sloping down, but it's sloping. But
we are a young country. So like compared to like other, and yeah, we're in the age of technology and stuff like that. But I mean, as a society and a country, like we're young. So we're still trying to figure these things out.
Right.
And that's why, everybody else is laughing at us, but we're babies in this. So
I think, okay, tell me then, I'll take yours further. Maybe it doesn't matter at all to vote here because everything's so rigged essentially, one way or another. But also, what if all of the world's leaders are actually just in cahoots with each other and keeping us all distracted with their little fake, like if all of this stuff is just them knowing, hey, the world is going to run out of resources and we're overpopulated. And at some point we're going to need to, and we're going to have the robotics and the AI, and we're going to need to get rid of all of these billions of useless people. And so maybe we just need to, make everybody afraid so that we can get them to agree to either one world order or, CBDCs and all kinds of things for us to like cede control and any kind of ownership and wealth and get us all, because if we're afraid enough of Russia and China and all that, then, like I'm kind of like, are we sure they're not all just kind of laughing at us?
It wouldn't surprise me in the least.
Yeah.
Would not surprise me in the least.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would be surprised. Even the alien thing, now that everyone has,
get me started.
They've changed their tune. All of a sudden, like all these little things are coming out, like, oh, there are aliens, and I'm like, are they not just using that now? Yeah. Like now we don't believe it, right? Because now we all think
because the government told us
the government's
it's real.
telling us. This feels like a psyop to get us all to go. Like it's like a sci-fi novel where we're all going, oh, is there a common threat? Then let's all give some one world power. Like
that makes sense. I mean, for them to come out now and be like, you know what, we really need to stop fighting with each other because. But if anybody was waiting for the government to tell them that aliens are real, they're basically retarded.
Right.
It's not.
I mean, we've never known for sure whether aliens were real. But it's always been a high likelihood that if the vastness of all the universes, all the known universe came up with our life, our intelligent, as we call it, life here on this one little, and there's so much like that. It's like, why would it really never happen anywhere else?
Right. That's not possible.
It says it's anything's possible.
Well, okay,
I mean,
yes.
our lives are barely possible at all. But like,
tell me about it.
Also, I think probably the nature of the universe is a little bit more psychedelic than we give it credit for in the materialistic way. So it's like kind of like if we want aliens to be real, they're real.
They're going to be. If you can conceive it and believe it,
then,
well, I mean,
like once we want them to be real on some kind of unconscious level collectively, then now
then
they're real.
Here.
They're
here.
I don't know.
Well, I can't say that I 100% believe this, but I'll say it wouldn't surprise me if they're living amongst us now.
I was told that they are, and that
some of them are our politicians.
I wish. I think so, because what I was told is that there's mostly good aliens, and they're here to help us, and that they're kind of all around, but we can't see them. And me and some friends were guided in a meditation where we invited the aliens out. And you were supposed to imagine like our address and the top of our house and expand out and whatever, invite them, but that like they would only visit us to the extent of the least comfortable person's comfort level with the visitation. Okay. So like if one person was like, I'm comfortable like feeling a little tap on my hand, great, but I don't want to see them, then that's all any of us get.
Interesting.
Well, so then one of our friends apparently didn't imagine, or wasn't giving them our address because she didn't want it. And then she proceeded to fall asleep and have a dream about aliens. And the rest of us just kind of had a nice meditation, which What a selfish bitch.
Okay.
Just kidding.
Why did you invite that person?
No, I'm kidding. She was great.
I would be like, everybody has to be on the same board. We want to see them, right?
Yeah.
We all want to see them, right? Okay,
You're
then
right.
you can come.
Right. Yeah, I thought we all agreed to try to believe.
And she's like, I don't even want to give the address.
I mean, honestly, she probably believed in it more than me, and even some of the others were really just cynical, but trying to be open to it, you know, and just like, sure, dude, whatever. You're obviously a little autistic, but this is your thing, you know, like, we'll go with you on this. But, you know, he had stories about all these aliens coming talking to him, and you always wonder about stuff. Like, there's people, like, he seems sincere. He doesn't seem like he's just like making this shit up, you know?
Right.
You're like, maybe there are aliens so in the 11th dimension who are.
Everybody experiences reality differently.
Yeah.
You know, like not any one of us is experiencing reality the same. So it's totally plausible that he
also could just be like schizophrenic.
That could be it too. But that's his reality.
Yeah.
You know, like who are we to say that that's not a true reality and that we're not the schizos?
Is tapping into some 11th dimension shit. Right.
Yeah. But I think they're here among us. I think if anything that they're studying us and they're not going to let us know because that detracts from the experiment. Like,
yeah,
they want, I mean, and if they're politicians, you know, they're just trying to see how it all works. They want to see the inner workings. They want to see how we're doing it and like how we come.
Yeah. Or maybe they're just making National Geographic type videos or whatever. It's like,
we're entertainment for them.
Right. Just the way that we would watch animals, you know, chase each other and rip each other apart and not intervene. They're just watching all of our little machinations. And
and it would be, what do they say? Like with documentaries, like where you don't involve yourself because you but it's like an experiment. Like you have to keep yourself out of it to really see the results. So
you don't want to get involved. All right.
They're in the ocean. They're probably living in the ocean because we haven't discovered enough of the
half
ocean.
The shit in the ocean could be aliens and we wouldn't even know.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, technically it is. It's another world.
It is very much another world. All right, wait. How do we get onto that? We were talking about
distraction.
Yeah,
we're talking about distraction.
It works.
It does.
The aliens just distracted us. So is there any kind of vision that you have for how to help this country? Since if voting's not no good, what should we do? Or is there no hope? Do we all plan to move to Brazil? I don't know, whichever South American
I don't think that there is no hope. I do think that the way that our government has set up, like with the states and federal and everything, it makes it very hard for us as a people to come together as a whole and battle against something like that because of how fractioned we are. But I think there needs to be a way for us to all come together and say, no, this is not okay. And I don't think that the voting is working.
Yeah.
I think I saw an interesting, what was it on the TikTok? It was like a woman saying that we need to rewrite the Declaration of Independence because it was written by and for white men. And I was like, you know, that kind of makes sense. Like none of that stuff was written with women in mind, Black people in mind. It was all to serve the white rich men that came over here and founded and started the government. So
yeah, although those men were like really, really well educated and nobody is anymore.
Right. Yeah, they were.
So we got to find just the right focus group for the.
They were well educated in their times.
Right.
And so like would their education level be worth writing another Declaration of Independence for our society as it is right now?
Well, my thing is like, how are we going to all agree on who should write this declaration and the new constitution?
Yes.
I mean, there may be a handful of geniuses. Yeah. But this brings me to then my suggestion, which is I've started encouraging people to get to know their neighbors. I know some people do, but a lot of people don't, especially Anglo heritage people. Who no longer go to church and don't have like any real community. So then we have this like atomized society now where people aren't, you know, really encouraged to get to know their neighbors and stuff. And people kind of feel afraid and they just like texting and they don't want to. And so I think what we need to start with to fix the country is everybody gets to know their neighbors, like your whole neighborhood, and then find someone in the neighborhood who probably has lived there for a while, maybe like a nurturing kind of person, whatever. And that person can be like the hub for the neighborhood so that everyone can go to them with, like, if you have a need, And then she can say, oh, do you not know so-and-so? Because he's actually a plumber and whatever. And then so all that kind of stuff. And then monthly block parties. We need to organize monthly block parties or neighborhood party, however you want to make it work. And kind of so build social capital amongst our neighborhoods so that we, you can hire babysitters and dog walkers without little apps taking the money, and we can help each other and barter and all these kinds of things and take care of each other, because one of the things that we're going to need to do is obfuscate the need for the federal government, which is not serving us anymore.
Correct.
So if we can start to learn each other's needs and skills and whatever, all of that, get to know each other and get to know, a diverse group of people who happen to live near us. And that'll help us kind of heal. Oh, there's a trans person. Now I know a trans person. Now I know someone of this race that I never did before. So now I know someone who's 92 and now I know someone who's 14. And what happened? Okay.
But I like the idea of getting to know your neighbors, because I think also one of the things that hurts us is, and I don't know if this is really the same now, but like when I was growing up, like you didn't talk about politics. That's not something that you were really, and I think that has also kind of been a detriment to not talk about politics and not talk about who you're voting for, because I think it opens up those important conversations for people. Because like I said before, like I have opinions, but they can always be changed based on the information that has presented to me, because I don't know everything.
Yeah.
So
not talking about politics and religion, I think, is like a real waspy thing that was happening. That was just like, oh, let's not talk about anything that might make us uncomfortable, And
I think we need to have uncomfortable conversations if we're ever going to make things right for this country and safe and comfortable for everybody.
Right.
We have to have those hard conversations. We cannot hide that stuff.
Well, and that's what's really difficult about this era on the left of cancel culture, censorship, self-censorship. Questions are seen as potentially problematic, or like a dog whistle, or like it's somehow violence to even ask a question, all that kind of stuff. It means that then when you're talking to people who are in the left, kind of in that kind of the left, you're not really speaking forthrightly and candidly. You're not asking questions. You're not challenging things. And so it seems like, at least ever since Trump was elected, the ideas in the left have gotten worse and worse, because there's such a culture of like, you're not really allowed to discuss these things. And so all the smart people in the world aren't going to stay silent. They have things to say. They have questions to ask. They have research to do. So they're like, okay, well, I guess I just have to go to the right in order to do those things, say those things, ask those things. And so now, like, the opinions on the right are kind of starting to get better, and the opinions on the left are just getting stupider.
But I think that's kind of like the ebb and the flow of politics in America. It's always been like that.
Right.
Where,
so we're in the middle of one of those shifts. And so like this whole like, knee-jerk thing or whatever of this default thing of like good people are blue and bad people are red, like that's all shifting around. But it's also like, well, even if we change that, like that'll just get weaponized once we all decide that the reds are the good people and the blue are the bad people. That'll get weaponized and fucked
and then
up.
It'll just switch again.
Right.
So we're constantly just like going back and forth between these colors, and it's like,
what are we doing?
We just abandon all of that.
Right.
And but I do when you were saying about Trump earlier, like I know a lot of people don't like him, but I do enjoy the spirit, I guess, he's brought to politics now, because people, I feel, do speak more freely about it. And also he kind of like ran the country like a business.
Right.
Which
we need some of that.
Something,
it's
it
a
is
lot
a
better
business.
than what Biden's done with Russia and, weaponizing the dollar so that no one wants to use it as a currency, a world currency anymore.
There
really
is
bad business decisions made by this current
You can't just be a politician. You kind of have to have that business head to you because it is a business. I mean, if it's involving like currency and how we're spending and
and our reputation in the world and our credit rating and like everything that, we have been experiencing increasingly bad inflation, and it's almost definitely about to get worse and worse and worse and faster. And because of the poor governance of the country. And it does feel like I mean, if it is a rematch between Biden and Trump, I really hope it doesn't get down to that, because my girlfriend will kill me if I vote for Trump. And I know I probably will do the same thing I did last time and vote for neither, but
my ex fiance, she did not vote. We didn't vote. We were non-voters together. But if she did vote, she would have voted for Trump.
I think I voted for like Andrew Yang, Tulsi Gabbard.
See, yeah, because of the $1,000 a month. Is that what you were going for?
No, just generally speaking, because no, I the UBI. I mean, we'd have to really figure out some math to not make it all just an inflation game. But at least he's thinking about the issue of how are we going to share all of our wealth rather than some people being the winners and everybody else having nothing.
Yeah.
So at least he's thinking about that, and he just sounded more intelligent and less full of political bullshit than and Tulsi Gabbard too. And I just liked her from getting to listen to her talk longer, and what you saw in the primary debates, just they gave her like 30 seconds twice, and she still did pretty well, but then everybody, the DNC fucks everybody over, and like that was just so appalling and galling that like, to be manipulated the same way we were from Bernie to Hillary. Yes. This same shit, the DNC. And so it's like, I think so many of us who do care, but who are kind of, more left type people are like, well, fuck the Democratic Party up the ass to hell then. Because if what you're going to give us are these corrupt career politicians who are from, these power families who are probably molesting kids, by the way, like the whole thing is it's really crazy, because like what QAnon believes now, the QAnon people believe is actually closer to the truth than what like a good old Democrat who really believes in the party thinks. Like,
which is so wild, because so everybody thinks that's the that the QAnon is the
but
crazy.
The elites really are fucking our kids, literally and or figuratively.
Yes, both. No, they absolutely
usually
are.
Both. Yeah. So. I don't know about the tunnels under the ground, and that being every time there's an earthquake, it's because they're making a new tunnel under the ground for the clones to go from one end of the country or the other with their sex slaves. That might not be real. I wouldn't
if it came out to be true. Like I'd be like, okay, like that.
I'd be less surprised to hear that than that, our politicians are earnestly doing something to improve our lives.
Yeah. That they're making decisions that matter.
Or that are positively matter, as opposed to just lining their pockets.
Or that our government's not going to run out of money.
Well, they don't have money.
Right.
They have
I don't think we've ever had money. Have we ever had money? I feel like we've always been running out.
Remember when Clinton's whole thing was he was going to balance the budget?
Yes.
Doesn't that seem like 18 lifetimes ago?
Yeah.
Balance the budget.
Yeah. I'm a bookkeeper, and I understand it's difficult to balance a budget, but that's a long time.
That's a long
time.
I mean, it's like the entire world is the roadrunner or whatever who's run off the cliff and hasn't noticed it yet. Because everyone's printing money. Everyone's just promising that our children and grandchildren are going to pay for everything that our grandparents are doing. It's wild. And then like the older people, the boomers, et cetera, they don't know that, every policy, or they don't admit to themselves that every policy has been just a generational transfer of wealth from their children and grandchildren to them. And they all go, you kids should be working harder and not, maybe you don't need to have Netflix if it's too expensive, and you just, work hard like we did. And it's like, no, like the entire economy was stacked in your favor.
Yes.
And it's now stacked against us.
Yeah.
So
go
fuck yourselves.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think, the people that are millennials, like we're just going to be screwed. We're the ones who are screwed in all of this.
Yeah.
And my hope is that the people, what is the generation after millennials? Is that the Z's?
Yeah.
That they're going to pick it up.
Yeah. Because at least they have the skills.
I think we're in the process of like helping dismantle. Yeah. And we're like pointing out the fallacies and saying, look,
that's all we can really offer is our wisdom.
Yes.
Since we'll never really have a lot of money and power.
Right. Yeah. We've passed that point in our lives. Yeah. So the only thing we can do is like help dismantle and point out fallacy and like help open up people's minds and really kind of attack this vision that the government has for us and leave it up to the younger people who have more time and energy. And
I think we're the bridge, basically, of the wisdom of our elders, and we are young enough to kind of be able to speak to the younger generations, and for them to believe that we do care about all of the social values that they care about. But we're old enough to remember the pre-internet times. We're old enough to like have older people in our lives that we really know and talk to and understand. So yeah, I do see us as kind of almost like a spiritual generation.
Yes.
It's kind of, you know what I mean? Just some shaman tribe.
Yeah, and we're just trying to lead them.
Just trying to lead them somewhere.
To sense.
To sense, exactly.
I mean, I think I like, it's almost like we're saying like, it doesn't have to be this way. Like we can't fix it. We don't know what to do, but we know that it doesn't have to be this way, that there is potential for us to like do this in a different way and it be okay for everybody. And it's just unfortunate that we don't get to see that. I don't think that we'll see it in our lifetime, but.
Well, this is why, again, with the neighbors thing, and obviating the need for the government as it is. Like, I know some people who have done this where like they're fixing their own potholes, for instance. And it starts there. That's not much, but it starts there. And then, you know, even everyone has their tiny little lending libraries in front of their yard.
I love that.
So things that we do that are like this, where we're all just giving to each other, really help even show some kind of path out of going, well, we have to have the government. I mean, what would we do without schools? Well, all the schools suck.
Yeah.
What would we do without libraries? I do like the libraries, but we could make our own libraries, and you could pay $5 a month for something where you get books and whatever, you know what I mean? We can do collective things. We can figure out lots of different ways.
We can figure out a lot of things, especially, and I don't agree with robots. I'm terrified of robots taking over and AI and all of that stuff. Yeah. But with all that technology that we have available to us, we can make those things happen. And I love seeing like some of the places where I live, they have like refrigerators out for people, like go put stuff in there. And if you need to, go take stuff out, and there's no questions asked. Yeah. And I love that just sense of community. Like you were saying, just like, if you need it, take it.
Yeah. Because when we were living in smaller tribes of, 200 people or fewer, then of course, like everyone took care of each other. How could you not? This is, this
you're watching,
person, this, someone breaks their leg. It's not like, well, fuck you, good luck. You know, it's like you take care of it when people are old or they're young or they're, invalids or whatever. Like everyone takes care of each other. And it's, we don't want to do communism in the sense of centralized government owns everything and, has clipboards where they're assigning us whatever. But what we want is communalism where we all take care of each other, where we have community, where we know each other's needs and skills, et cetera, and our networks for each other. And I think it's just like this sad thing that's happened where, thanks to all those really, really intelligent atheists, they convinced all the smart people that they would be better off without God and better off without religion, which I get that there have been a lot of issues with religion, but religions also function as fraternities and as ways to build social capital and to work together collectively in more efficient ways. And so it's like, well, if we're too smart for that, then now you have all these people who are not reflecting on morals even once a week, who have no community, who have no meaning, who have no purpose.
Right. Because religion is an answer it's an answer to that ultimate question of like, what happens after? And people need that. And if you're taking that away from people and the community part of it as well, like you're just.
And it's not just, like the community and the what's going to happen after you die. It's religions are something that have always been a rival for the power of the state.
Yeah. And
so now they're like, it's like, we're too smart to have a rival power to the state. Well, guess what? The only powers are the states and the corporations. So religion, it's like, I get it. Your kids got molested and that sucks. But there's a little bit of it like, well, your kids are going to get molested no matter whether there's churches or not. There's always some people working real hard to molest your kids. Yes. There's always going to be some of that.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Where there's a willy, there's often a will. And so, it's just like we're too smart for. And I just was listening to this podcast Unheard, where this guy was interviewing Richard Dawkins, and he was kind of asking him like, well, now that we've seen that the without religion, without these formal religions, people have kind of like wound up, because we still have the kind of these mechanisms in our brain that seem to point us toward something religious.
Yeah,
so now
the question.
There is this kind of like the woke religion has kind of become a thing for people, where there's the original sin of being white or male, and you have kind of, words you're not allowed to say, and things that take away the spirit, and books you shouldn't read. I mean, you can kind of see like all these parallels. And the guy was going like, is it possible that maybe the world is actually worse off because you four horsemen of the atheist apocalypse, whatever, needed to be so right and so smart? And Richard Dawkins is like, well, that's if you care about human flourishing, but I care about the truth.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, okay. And then he goes, of course I prefer human flourishing, but there's something important about the truth. And you go, well, that's always been my issue with Richard, especially. I mean, I think some of the others, Dan Dennett and Christopher Hitchens and whatever, like some of them had a little bit more nuance in their thinking about this. But Richard has always been so just cocksure in his like the worst thing that there could ever be was religion, and the best thing there could ever be would be to get rid of religion. And it's like, well, now all the masses are in withdrawal from that opiate.
Yeah, they need that. And people do need that. And and just, with the answer, and the community part of it is a huge thing. And also just having the routine of having something to go do and participate in.
And especially with community.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. And to take that away from people and tell them that they're wrong for having it, and that they don't need that.
Well, if you go to church, you're probably a Trump supporting white supremacist. You know what I mean? Like
at this point,
we just group everything into these two bins. And so it's like people are now in the closet about being Christian all the time. And in fact, I was reading a story the other day about how now it's hard for Christians to adopt kids, just the way it was hard for gay people to adopt kids when I was growing up. Now we've pushed the pendulum the other way, where we go, hey, like, what if your kid's gay? And the father goes, well, I mean, it would be, a struggle because it is against our morals, values. But, I'm sure I would still love my child, and I would still go to their wedding. They were like, okay, but what if your kid's trans? And they were like, I mean, I didn't, like, we can kind of cross that bridge when we come to it, but we're going to try our best to, explore the issue and see, you don't really know until you get there, but they wouldn't sign on to just like, we'll transition the kid. And so they were denied the ability to adopt kids, and it's like, remember when that was happening, and it was like, should gay people get to adopt kids? On our side of things, it was like, how could you be so cruel? There's so many kids in the foster system.
Yes.
There's so many kids who need to be adopted, and there's loving parents who, just because they don't agree with all of your same religious ideas and whatever, then you're saying they can't go to this loving home, and so they should just wallow in this foster system, whatever. And so now it's like, this sweet little Christian couple doesn't agree with what the liberal orthodoxies, and really only kind of the 15% of the farthest left's beliefs about stuff. Like because we have done a good job pulling conservatives toward the left.
Yeah.
Like they really are more in the middle now. Now they're just like, gay marriage is fine. Just please don't be trans. You know what I mean? Like, which is like a lot. We have moved them.
Yeah.
Which is great. And instead now we're going, no. You're a bad person. You shouldn't get to have kids, you know? And I'm like,
it's like they've waited this entire time to have the upper hand. And now they're like, we have it. And how do you like it? And
waited
like,
my whole life just to shit on. All right. Yeah.
And how is that solving anything? And like you said, there's all these kids that need homes, but we're over here dilly-dallying over, well,
and that's the issue with the young, because they aren't old enough to know that that's how it happened. They don't remember what the 90s were like, or the early 2000s were like. They don't know that they're playing out a pattern that has happened before, and they're just on the other side of it. So that's why those of us who are gays, who saw all that, can go, hey, look, I get it, but you're doing the same thing to the Christians that they did to us.
Right. And how does that make you better?
Yeah, exactly. You believe all these things, which, by the way, there's no scientific basis for any of the gender ideology. Yeah. There is none.
Right.
So just no scientific basis for the Christian worldview. It's kind of the same.
Yeah.
So these are just different beliefs that you guys have. And maybe we should let loving parents who are married, who want to have kids. You got two loving parents. Let two loving parents adopt a fucking kid.
Yeah. Take the financial onus off of the state.
Right.
And save that money to go towards, I don't know, education maybe to these children so we can teach them.
Ideally,
but what are we going to teach them?
That's the
what
thing.
Are we allowed to teach them?
And there was an essay this like 16 or 17-year-old woman wrote that just won a contest that was about how she decided to quit public school like during the kind of pandemic times, and they were supposed to do on Zoom and all that. And she was just like, you know what? She convinced her mom to let her homeschool, and she just gets to like wait. She wakes up at 6 a.m. starts studying Latin and studies all this stuff. But it's like, well, I mean, she's obviously a nerd and she self whatever. But she talks about like how shitty school was. It had just gotten to the point where they were just wasting so much time like learning, like kind of liberal propaganda garbage, but also just lowest common denominator, not really spending their time.
Test scores,
and
because that equates to government money,
right.
And so all they're doing is teaching the children what they need in order to appease the government,
right?
And how that's not helping the children, right. Because at this point we don't need to appease the government,
right?
We don't need them to be appeased. We need them to help, and so we're doing a great disservice to children in public schools.
So that's another thing about the neighborhood stuff. And then maybe that step 2 is going, all right, now that we all know each other, how can we set up a situation where we're not doing daycare? Where we're now how can we set up a situation where we're educating our kids partially or completely? Because like maybe there can be programs, because there's like charter school things, or there's like homeschool, like, I'm not sure exactly. There's a lot of different programs where maybe you do some classes with this school and then some things.
They do that.
And so it's like, so now you find out, okay, in this neighborhood, this person can teach science to 4th through 7th grade kids. This person can teach math, and like we can start really forming situations, because like, and especially because people don't want what has become of the economy in terms of you need 2 parents working full time in order to make enough money, and then some, and so that one person's income has to mostly go to pay for the childcare, and then no one gets to spend time with their kids, and like we need to kind of figure out, okay, we tried feminism one way.
Yeah.
Maybe we can revise this.
Yeah.
And say, hey, a lot of people, especially women, would like to spend more time with their kids, would like to have some kind of work-life balance. And it would be really nice to maybe, you spend a couple hours in the morning with your kids, teaching them the things that you can, working with them, whatever. And then you have a couple hours where all the neighborhood kids come to your house. And then there's a few hours where all the neighborhood kids go to somebody else's house. And now you're alone, and you can do your work from home job, or you can work on your hobby or your Etsy thing or whatever it is. And we can kind of get to the place where we've just been tricked into this idea that, well, now you have to live out here in this place. It's more expensive because that has the better schools.
Yes.
And then you have to have 2 cars now with all the cost of that. And now you have to pay for childcare. And so whatever. So if we can get rid of, again, obviate the need for a lot of that kind of stuff, then that would mean people don't have to work outside the home as much. They can figure out how to work as a community in a much more efficient way where we're not giving money to all these other people.
Right. Well, our workforce is also not set up to benefit us. Our workforce is set up, obviously we go 9 to 5 to serve the overlords of the corporations and the government. And then our children are in schools during that time because they're being groomed to be part of that 9 to 5 grind.
Right.
So like everything that we're doing now for children and work and all that stuff isn't geared to like help us make money or help us be able to afford things or make anything out of our lives. It's all just serving this higher, the puppet masters. Right. And I love the idea of just like those smaller communities where people take care of each other.
Yeah.
Because you know better what is necessary for those around you than somebody in Washington who's never even met them.
Our country is too big, and on every level, things are too big for things to be working properly. Things work properly when everyone knows each other, when it's a small enough community that you can, you can't really get away with bullshit. You can't hide it. Like everyone knows everyone's business.
Yeah.
And then I think at some point, like once we get it to the point where it's a cultural, because we basically, it's like we need a culture, we need sets of cultural norms and scripts, because we have a lot of like cultural anime now where no one really knows how to act with each other. We don't know how to say hi when we pass each other on the street, much less anything else.
Yeah.
And so we need to start developing an actual, like in some ways, kind of almost like an American religion almost.
That sounds frightening.
Yeah. But I mean, some kind of collective understanding of ourselves as Americans who can have some shared identity and values. Because like the French, the Italians, whatever, like these people have Swedes and everything, like they have some idea of themselves as like, this is what our culture is like.
Right.
This is how, whatever. And then with people who come, they want to assimilate to that culture.
Yes.
And so we really don't have that here.
Because we're the melting pot.
We're the melting pot.
So we're open to diversity, and we want that diversity, but not really.
Right. But we need to figure out some kind of way that we can be like, what can we agree on in terms of how to greet each other, in terms of like, hey, maybe we all should, something that's nice about having a Sabbath day that is kept holy is that the workers have rights then to not have to work every fucking day.
Yes.
Without getting fired, And so it's like, well, maybe we don't all believe in the exact same God situation, but maybe we can all, agree to pretend to believe in a goddess called Americana who has decreed that we all don't work on Sundays.
Yeah.
And we gotta think a little bit outside the box, because the revolution's not going to be us fighting them with guns.
I think that's more, with us not having like that day of rest or whatever, is more just that hustle and culture, that hustle flow that we have in this culture, like to go, do. There's no time for rest.
Right.
And,
well, isn't that part of how they keep us kind of brainwashed? Yes, because we can't reflect on,
because we're too tired.
There's no time to rest and reflect on.
or even like try to understand about what's going on in the government. Like we don't have the time. We may have the resources, but we have to like wade through all that, which takes time.
Right.
And yeah, but by the time I get off of work, my work week is done. I'm tired. Like I don't want to do any of that.
Yeah.
It's a lot to ask of people.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of breaking down into smaller communities, because we would best know how to serve ourselves.
We would best know. And I think once we do that, like if we can get to the place where people really do know each other's neighbors, and that's the norm, and people are getting together and working together, then we can start to talk about how to scale that.
Yeah.
Go, all right, now everyone is going to actually elect. I'm like brainstorming. I'm like, okay, maybe every neighborhood, however we define neighborhoods, we can figure out how to draw those. Every neighborhood gets 3 representatives. One who is voted on by everybody, just democratic process. One who is the eldest person in the neighborhood, and one whoever has most recently turned 18. So it could be that you're a representative for a few days, a few years, whatever, depends on your neighborhood. And then the next person who turns 18 is, so that way you have kind of all these different perspectives. Anyway, I'm just brainstorming because we're not there yet in the plan.
Yeah.
But like, I think, because I just keep thinking about like people talk about revolution or tearing the country down or all this. And I'm like, we can't do a revolution in the old school way.
No.
It's not going to work for a million reasons. So I think the cooler, better version of it is actually just this really underground, grassroots, by the people, for the people, of the people revolution, where we just start actually working together and realizing, well, what a government is people collectively deciding to give power to people and like we can pool our resources in a certain way. So instead of us doing it like those people. So when you say like create your own, constitution or Bill of Rights, that is kind of what it would ultimately lead to, is we go, well, we know what we want and how we want to use our funds and whatever. And we just have to kind of build it up, because right now this top down thing is so broken.
Yeah, it's absolutely broken. It's scary broken. So what happens? So I guess like, I feel like eventually though, that would kind of turn into the same thing. Because what happens when because the way that everybody's broken up now in the neighborhoods that they live in, they're surrounded by the same kind of people.
To some extent, some neighborhoods more than others, but yes, we have kind of gravitated toward living near people who are like in homogenous communities. But I mean, I think that can be okay. There's still always going to be some diversity.
Right.
You know, you're still going to get to know some people that you weren't otherwise. And then it's like, it might be easier then for people who, and especially if the kind of people who moved to those neighborhoods on purpose because they wanted to live near people like them, might be easier for them to go ahead and build community with people who do have something in common with them.
Right.
Whether it's just socioeconomic or whatever. And then you go, okay, you guys can, you know, like that's easier. It's easier to get to know people who are kind of similar to you. And then at that point you go, okay, look, there's these 10 neighborhoods in this town who have realized there's something that we all have an interest in. So we're going to say, okay, we're going to have a meeting and we're like a little town hall type meeting and people can come voice their things. And then everyone send a representative or 3 or whatever from your neighborhood to come and talk about, hey, how can we all raise funds? Can we say, hey, can everyone pay, you know, 0.01% of your income to this thing so that you can, you know, we're just going to, again, I don't have all the answers. I know what step 9 is. I know what step 1 is, you know, but I don't.
Everything in between.
We're going to have to play it a little bit by ear. But I think at the very least, even if we never make it past the getting to know your neighbors thing, that's going to have a really good effect because especially as things deteriorate, as the dollar becomes less and less capable of buying things, as you know, as this country goes through hardships, it's going to become really important to have people that you can rely on and trust and who know you, and that the internet and the government is not able to get you to distrust. You know, we need to be able to actually trust people and not kind of turn on them, and you know, because there's already been hints of like Maoist cultural revolution kind of stuff in terms of people ratting on each other and, you know, canceling each other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
it's every man for himself at this point.
So if we need to not let that become more and more the case,
right? And
be more honest with each other, more open, talk to people, get to know people, get to trust, hey, they are a good person. Just because they voted for somebody that I think is repugnant doesn't mean that they actually are a bad person. They have a completely different like set of news that they're watching. They have a completely different set of realities that are,
There's also different reasons. Like my ex-fiance who would have voted for Trump, it was strictly money. It was just because stocks went way better during Trump than it is during Biden.
Yeah.
That was the whole reason.
Yeah.
Nothing else mattered. It was just the money.
Yeah.
Which also I think we need to just get rid of.
Just
start over with that whole thing.
Well, I mean, the government wants to by, you know, doing CBDCs and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's also the point of, you know, cryptocurrency is to start over in a way that's not, you know, so that we don't have to rely on these governments with their federal reserves and things, just printing money and inflating our money and you know, just playing fast and loose with our wealth.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but like I still don't really understand with crypto. Like, should we be invested? Because it's like if one Bitcoin is $16,000 or $32,000, whatever, like that doesn't seem real.
It does. None of it seems real.
And like the fact that some guy got to make it up and then put some and people mine it and there's all these servers that are.
I don't understand any of it.
But maybe Ethereum's better.
There's a dog one.
Yeah, I made a few $1,000 off Dogecoin.
Did you?
Thanks to Elon Musk. Yeah,
I don't understand it at all. But I do love how the government is trying so hard to get their hands in it. They're like, we have to collect on this. That you're not allowed to have your own currency.
Right. Well, I mean, and then they could control so much and track so much, and I mean, the Chinese are already, you know,
all over
rolling it out. You know, so you can control what people spend their money on, and you can. And the Chinese have already started trying out the stuff where some money has an expiration. So because if they want to stimulate the economy,
to get people to
get people to spend, you go, all right, you have this money, but it expires in 2 weeks or whatever.
Ugh.
There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot they can do. And if you wake up in a world where
you
don't have a car, and so you try to get your Uber, but now you've been cut off from your money because you posted something on Facebook the government didn't like, and because you questioned something that was you were questioning something about climate change, which it's too great of a threat to be able to question. Just like they could censor you if you talked about the vaccines because it was too great of a threat. So if they can do that, then we know what else could they do that for? And if they can freeze your money because you're a trucker in Canada who doesn't want to get vaccinated because you never even are with anybody else and whatever. There's this, like, they've set these precedents now where
COVID really rocked the game hard. It really, I think that was an ultimate flex on all the guys. Well, I think that's like an all government thing where they were all like, okay, guys.
Right.
I'm sure that the outcome wasn't necessarily what they were looking for, but I think it was just kind of a way to be like, scare people into.
I'm not sure the outcome wasn't exactly what they wanted. I mean, here you have, they're doing gain of function research. At least if we're in Boston, we use the soft R. You park the car at Harvard Yard, you retard. It's like how you get into the Boston accent. Anyway, okay. I think we solved some of the world's problems.
I think we did.
Do you want to plug anything to the good old audience?
Well, I guess I just tell people to follow me on the Instagram. It's Robot Peni, like multiple penises, Penii.
Why did you go with that?
It started out as a game. It was supposed to be Robot Penis. I was at Cheesecake Factory and they give you the stupid thing to hold your table and it lights up so I was like holding it up to myself being like Robot Penis. And then I would like hold up other things and be like, this is my penis. It was a game. And then I just kept it. But I couldn't get Robot Penis because that was already taken on the Instagram. So I had to do multiple penis. But nobody ever has that one.
You know what? It's strange because if you were going to have a robot with a penis, you may as well have more than one. You know,
more penis. Yes.
Peni.
Yeah. Multiple sizes.
Yeah. Just different
shapes
attachments
and colors and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why have one robot penis?
That's right. You know what? It makes total sense.
You can't stop at one.
It makes total sense now.
Yeah. Good. All right. Thanks so much, Bridget.
Thank you.
This was fun.
I appreciate it.